Welcome to the stream. This is Live Free or Die Bard, Episode 8, Dungeoneer Design. We are making a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons campaign from scratch. Writing the whole thing, making all the maps, doing everything. We are putting all of our stuff on Obsidian Portal. Let me show you the web address if you want to follow along at home. You can. This is livefreeordiebar.obsidianportal.com. Obsidian Portal is a campaign management website. If you're unfamiliar, you can put your game notes and all of your cool stuff up there. Use it as a showcase or a player handout kind of thing, or you can run your games off of it, play by post, play by email, whatever you want to do. So this one's ours, Live Free or Die Bard. The game itself is a musical pun game. The party in question will start at level 1. We've put them in our little world that we're creating, and they will form some sort of a band or an entertainment troupe and then go around adventuring, trying to find gigs and solve mysteries, Scooby-Doo style and whatnot. So that's the gist of it. The stream itself, we've had 7 episodes so far. We've gotten started. We've gotten them all the way up to their first dungeon, which is a small one. We're going to be working on that today. So, fair warning, spoilers, if you do intend to play this game in the future. All the stuff will be put on the website and in the stream, so you will know all the secrets right away. By the way, the chat has created most of the plot so far. So, welcome back, chat, or welcome for the first time if this is your first time here. Any suggestions that you would like to put into the chat on Twitch, or if you're following along later for a recorded stream on the YouTube comments in our YouTube channel, you can put them in the comments section of the website itself. Or you can find me on Obsidian Portal and send me a direct message. It's Jinx001, that's JYNX001. If you have an account, you can message me. And let me know what you want to see in the game, and we'll try and work it in somewhere. If not right away, then certainly later. Musical puns is what we need, so if you know some music stuff, feel free to jump in. Or if not, just make some stuff up. I won't know. Alright, let's put this away. Let's talk about what I did in between streams. I'm trying not to do too much in between the different streams. What you see here is our front page. Haven't changed anything. I did make one adjustment. Let me show you a couple of things that I did here. So this is where we're storing our adventures in the adventure log. So when you go to run this game as a GM, that's Game Master if you don't know, or DM, Dungeon Master if you're following the Dungeons & Dragons terminology. This is where you'll go to run adventure number 1. We'll go down here. Okay, as you can see, I've got some window dressing put up. How did you do this crazy stuff, you ask, or not? So I was watching my friend Kalak's stream, which is on Tuesdays at 10 p.m. and he's currently doing. He just started a custom CSS, how to customize your Obsidian Portal web pages with CSS. So let me show you what I did here in between, because I wanted to play with it and figure out if I had done it correctly, and this is the result. So what you can do if you have, I believe it's an Ascendant account you need, you can do some custom styling. You go into your settings, you go over to your advanced area, and if you go down here, you will find your custom CSS area, and you can add CSS details. So what I did here was I basically followed along on his stream. He shows you how to do stuff on the back end to make the front end look awesome. So he's having one episode, and this is what I picked up from the first episode. I want my block quotes to look different, to look like that cool sort of parchment colored square thing with the shadow box behind it. So I went through, following Kalak's instructions, to w3schools.com and got lists of how to do different things in CSS if you need terminology help. And then I basically followed his instructions and put in, whenever I put a block quote, I want it to do all this stuff. And I may have gotten some of this wrong because I'm brand new to it, but it looks right so far, so we'll make adjustments if we need to. So I wanted the background color to be beige, so it's background dash color colon space beige, and you can do whatever color you want, and then a semicolon. And you need spaces in between these different things. So I got a little space here in the front. I wanted the border around my block quote box to be 2 pixels wide and solid and black. You can make those dotted or different colors, whatever. I wanted a shadow box. This is how you do the shadow box. This is the color for the gray behind the shadow box. This this is I think it's, I forget which one is which, but one of them is how far away from center it is, and one of them is how thick it is. I think I forget. You'll have to look it up on your CSS tutorial on W3 Schools. Color black was for the text color, that all of the text that I want in there, I want it to appear black unless specified otherwise. I want my font weight to be bold. I want it to pop out and be bold, because normally in a block quote, your text is a little bit grayed out and normal. As my line height, I wanted my text to be squished tighter in, so it's faster to read, easier to read, which it is for me in this version. Normally on OP, I think your text is spread out a little bit for block quotes. And then I wanted some padding at the bottom to stretch out the box. So if you want what I have, you can go in here and look at this and basically copy paste this into your custom CSS in your advanced settings, in your settings tab on your own campaign. And then you go down and save it when you're finished. And when you do any kind of block quote stuff, which I'll show you how to do it, it will appear in this general format. And you can change it up so that whenever you do block quotes, you can do that. Thanks. I thought it did need something to make it pop, to stand out, because this is, if you'll recall from previous episodes, as the GM, you'll be running your eyes down here as you're running. You'll get to the stuff that you need to read out loud. This is what we want you to read out loud. So you get to this, you go on, and then you start getting information that's just for you, and then we'll highlight things that you need to read aloud to your players, and then the rest of it is for your reference as GM. So from now on, hopefully whenever we use a block quote, if I've done it correctly, it will pop out like that. So, for example, let's go in here and see if I have anything else that I need to block quote. This is your edit page. When you're editing, go to the little pencil and paper to edit your page. This is what we got so far. This is in textile. If you need a textile reference, by the way, Kalak is also teaching a little bit of the textile stuff in his episode 1 on his Tuesday show. This is some of that, so it gives you how to do certain things in textile. This is you can just Google this. This is redcloth.org, but there's also, you can get to that from, there's a link in here. Let's get into where we were and show you what that looks like. Okay, here's where some of our block quotes are. So I'm using this, the long version, so you can see it. So it's the little greater than, less than bracket things, and then you're doing block quote, and then at the end you do a slash block quote. Oops, move things around, sorry. Slash block quote. And that's how you get it. So I want this whole thing to be in one of those little text box, shadow box things, so I put it as a block quote, and then hopefully it'll pop out. So I don't have to do any kind of special stuff except for that. So let's move down to another section where we need another one of these. We'll put it in, see if I've done it correctly. So there's I need another section where we're reading. That's text there. Okay, here's one. Yeah, all right, so down here, so before I was doing I was just making it bold, and I want it to pop out, so I'm going to take out my little bold asterisks, and then I'm going to surround this particular section with a block quote. slash block quote. And in theory, we'll preview it. We'll go down here, we should have another one. So, yeah. Normally it would have looked like this, just bold, doesn't quite pop. And now it looks like this. So it pops back out so you know exactly what you're supposed to read when you get to this section of the thing. Okay, so let's get rid of our preview. We'll put in a couple more of these. I'm just going to copy and paste a few because that's a little faster. Remember to get rid of your previous bold things that you don't need anymore. I'm going to put in a block quote and block quote. Don't forget your little slash to show that it's the end. I'm sure all these things have technical programmer names. I don't know them. I didn't go to school for that. But you can watch Kalak's stream. He did go to school for that, and he will teach you all that stuff. It's like free college course right there. So you're good. So that's that. Let's do another one here. This is all of our text for what you're supposed to read when they go into the dungeon. Block quote with a slash, and so on and so forth. I'll just do a couple of them. You don't need to see me do them all. We can do them as we go. And then we want to make sure you go down to the bottom when you're finished. Click save. And save all of your stuff. And if we've done it correctly, all the stuff that we're supposed to read out loud other than NPC text is in our little boxes here. So we'll have a couple more to do as we go. We can finish that later. Okay. So that's one of the things I did in between streams. So be sure to check out Kalak's program on Tuesdays if you want to learn more. He's going to go into a lot more cool stuff. I'll be there watching because I want to learn all that neat stuff and find out how to do it. Maps. You will recall last time we worked on a map, and I have uploaded it. Let me show you what it looks like. If I can get this to autofocus correctly, I decided to draw a paper map to show you how you can do paper maps and then load them on here. I went ahead and finished this particular one so you don't have to sit there and watch me draw the whole time. But if you want to follow along on the screen or open up your own browser and go to our webpage, you can. But this is what we came up with. So this particular map, if you don't recall from last time, let me pull open our, let me get this, hang on, pop this up, let's make sure that's up correctly. And I want paint.net. Okay, this is our town map. This is on paint.net. It's a free drawing program. If you need to do this on the cheap, this is the way to do it. Okay, so this is our town map. Our dungeon is roughly in this vicinity over here, but we wanted the dungeon to sort of match the town underneath. So let me show you with the dungeon map layered on top. This isn't exactly right. I squeezed it a little bit, but it's pretty close. So this will be a little messy to see, but you get the general idea. Our main wall goes underneath the wall of the town. Our dungeon is directly underneath the structures of the town. We've got pipes, steam pipes going out from a central area. And this is where our dungeon will be, is underneath here. This is the inn where hopefully the PCs are staying if they've followed our railroading. They've entered, they've explored a little bit, they've moved in, they've solved a puzzle and avoided a trap. And then we've finished off the rest of it. So I went ahead and drew the rest of the stuff that we need for today so that you can see it easier. And we'll just be writing dungeon stuff today. So basically we had blocked off this one particular door with some rubble. In theory, they will dig it out and then go through to the next section. and then we'll lead them to the other places that they need to get to for the rest of the mission and things. Let's use it over here because we eventually want them to have access to the Temple Keep and to this mansion where we're going to have our next section of the adventure, which if we go quickly, we might be able to get to. All right, so that's that. This is what the actual map looks like up close. And I scanned it in with just a regular scanner. And then I will doctor it up as needed. We don't have labels on it yet because we're not quite finished, but we'll put those on later. Okay, let me go back and take this off. Now we're back to the website. Okay. So that's what we'll be doing today. Before we get to that, that's what I did in between streams. I'm trying not to do too much in between so you can see the whole process, but little bits here and there are necessary. There was some news of the week we need to address. Ginger Baker, legendary Cream drummer, dies aged 80. Cream from a pretty old band. Basically, he died recently. We're going to give him a little tribute and put his name into our game as an honorific. So I think that the best way to do that is to do funny play on words for his name. So let's go to our wiki. And we already have an inn. It's in our Kingdom of Calliope, cities, towns, and villages in Paradise City where we are. And at the Heartbreak Inn, I think we need to do a special dessert, perhaps special drink that they're famous for. So we're going to edit our Heartbreak Inn entry and add some ginger cream. So I think that would be an appropriate tribute to a famous rock star who passed away. Let's see where we can put this. Flaking paint on the sign above the door. The large inn on Penny Lane shows a faded, broken heart. Entrance opens into a large, long common room that's surrounded on two sides by stacked tables and benches, some of which are covered in a layer of dust. Okay, so this is our description of what's actually in there. This is what you'll read as you go. So actually, I might go back and we'll put it in. Let's go back one more. Let's put it in this description in Paradise City. Large inn that's fallen on hard times, run by Priscilla. Then we have a link to Priscilla's character page. Famous for their ginger cream. Seems alright. Ginger cream baked goods. This is Baker. Let's put formerly famous or semi-famous. Semi-famous for their ginger cream baked goods. Okay. And then save. There we go. So a little pun, play on words thing. We mentioned this last time. We might want to add it now. I would, since we have so many musical puns in here, I think it would be cool to be able to reward our players when they're playing, when they spot musical puns. We need to come up with some kind of award, maybe just a little experience point boost whenever they spot something that no one else has. So we have a section for house rules already. I think we should put one of these in there. So for bonus XP, and I think we can go ahead and put that down here. Let's clarify some of these. For creating funny song titles, they get 5 XP. Creating funny songs Let's do parody songs. Parody songs with lyrics. I think that should be more like maybe 20. Let's do 25 because that takes a little more time. Not that I know, since I do it all the time. And then first, let's do, just one at a time. We don't want to go crazy. Being the first player to spot a musical pun, and we'll give them 10 XP for that. I think that seems right. If you're having trouble figuring out experience point costs, or what rewards you should give anyway, you can just look in the player's handbook. I don't have the page number memorized, so I'm just going to look at the index. Let's see here. Experience points on 15. If you're brand new to role-playing, experience points are what you earn when you overcome challenges in the game, and then once you gain enough of them in 5th edition, you go up a level for your character, and then that's what you get. Okay, so character advancement, I won't be able to show you this on screen, but you start at 0 experience points at level 1, and you need 300 experience points to get to level 2. So we don't want to give them so many that they level up just from spotting puns. We want to give them little rewards, and then there's just a little bonus that won't completely unbalance the game. It's just a little fun extra thing. But there are lots of campaigns on Obsidian Portal. If you want to check them out and find their house rules, you can look around, and they've got giant lists of these things for how to get bonuses, how to spend bonuses, things like that. So you can check those out if you need some inspiration there. This other one down here was a user suggestion. +1 to your attack roll if you sing or rhyme your action or description. I'm going to make an addendum to that because I can see that getting out of hand. And we'll do that once per, let's do that once per character. Per battle. So you want to save it. So basically that would be, if you haven't played before, let's say you're going up to fight something, and I don't know, you make some description of your action, like my character goes forth with the spear and stabs him in the rear or something, then you get your little +1 for that round, but only once per battle because you don't want to go crazy with it. +1's a pretty significant bonus, but it'll get people engaged in thinking about how can I rhyme, what rhymes with fireball, that sort of thing. Okay, let's save our page. Now we've added our house rules there. We're getting a lot of these now, so maybe we can turn this into a list, a bullet point list. So there's a little thing up here. If you want a bulleted list, you just click right there and it will do the text file for you. Or you can just type it in if you happen to know it. In this case, it's an asterisk and a space. We'll do one down here for future additions. And then we end up with a nice, oops, forgot my space. There we go. End up with your nice little list, which is handy. Again, later on, once I learn a little more CSS, I might come back in and style this differently so that when things are in bulleted lists, maybe they look different, or I can put some kind of graphic or something in here behind it. That might be kind of cool. But this is pretty good for now. Nothing looks completely ridiculous in terms of game breaking, and you do want to keep that kind of stuff in mind as you're coming up with custom rules, because one of your player characters, or at least in this campaign, is Polly the Power Gamer. This is one of our archetypes that we're keeping track of. What are we going to give these people? You do get disadvantage if you sing Pitbull. Okay, sing Fireball. That's good. I like that. I'll add that in a second. So Polly the Power Gamer would he in general likes rules and stats, and is very invested in the game. That's something we can add to his description, because I think some people have different ideas of what perhaps power gamers are. More, all of the above. And then down here we have highly invested in his character. How do you spell? Is it IE? Yeah, IE. Polly, Power Gamer, will almost always try to make the most effective hero that we can. So we want to, for new GMs, which is what this particular campaign is for, we want to make sure that they are aware of what to watch out for. So we're going to add a watch out that you don't write game-breaking house rules, because this guy will find them and use all of them. Fair warning. Polly's not a bad guy. Polly keeps you on your toes as a GM, but generally you want a little bit of power gaming in some of your games sometimes, because these people they're paying attention the whole time. They know the rules. They can back you up on rules. They will find when people make mistakes. They will help other players in ways that will give suggestions if somebody's stuck, for example. So Polly's not a bad guy to have. You just have to be careful not to let them completely take over the game and make it not fun for other people. You want them to have the maximum amount of fun, but then everybody else also has to have their kind of fun too. So let's one more time take a look at our character archetypes. So while we're writing our dungeon, these are the people we want to give stuff to do. We want to give role-playing opportunities for Alice the actor, lots of exploration for Ezra the explorer, which that's what the dungeon's all about, is learning things and exploring. Paulie, we need to give him an extra fight, I think. We need to give him a little bit of a challenge, and I've got a good idea for how to do that. The escapist, Eddie the escapist, he wants to be distracted from his real life, so you don't want to give him anything too boring. You want to make sure it's exciting and interesting and dynamic and in motion constantly. And Norbert the noob needs training and guidance. We're teaching him how to play the game by letting him play the game. We're teaching him how to do skill checks by giving him a low-level skill check, and then sort of working our way up until he gets more confident. Wanda, the world builder, likes to create her own stuff for your game, and we're going to give her some opportunities to do that, hopefully as we go. All right. Let's see. I want to go add that disadvantage idea I just had. Move my mouth ahead. Let's go throw that in here. Again, the little edit button. The pencil and paper. Hi, Jerry. Welcome to the stream. Okay. So let's add another list. Disadvantage review. Seeing Pitbull. Upcasting Fireball. Okay, let's go back to our dungeon map that we made. We'll pull this up and back out a bit. All right, so Dungeoneering is about sort of the logical, as much logic as you can apply to a fantasy game dungeon. Thanos? Oh, cool. I could see that. How would I do Thanos? It's really, really good at melee combat. You could just be a straight-up fighter or a barbarian. You need to give him some, and probably do a custom race kind of thing, so he is super invulnerable to just about everything. D&D Beyond link? I don't mind. As long as it's really a D&D Beyond link, I think that's cool. Yeah, that'd be an interesting character to fight. A lot of your end bosses are going to be very Thanos-like, where they're nigh invulnerable. They're powerhouses, and the general idea is of teaming up is the only way to take them down. Thanos, Goliath, Paladin. That would work. Goliath is a good race. Paladin, Holy Crusader. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. Okay, let's do our dungeon. This is the basic map. You can follow along if you go to the website, if you want to zoom in and really get a good look at it. So basically, I'll walk you through. I don't have my labels on here yet. We'll do them later. This is the crack where they come from up above after they've done the little cellar rat clearing out starter adventure. They've got a hallway to explore. On this side, they find an iron pipe with some gauges and things on it. This is a steam pipe for the giant organ that's down here they don't know about yet. Otherwise, this passage is blocked off. If they come down this way, they encounter some rubble that has collapsed from the wall, and they encounter a door that's partially buried. We want them eventually to dig that out, and I think that's where we need to put our little combat encounter. So I have this feeling as they're digging out bricks, perhaps they open this up and this passage beyond. There's some rats living there. We talked about our rats last time, or a couple times ago. We made a little mini stat block to show you what that is. So I think we should add that to our stuff. That was in our adventure log. I think we hit our basic stats. Let's go down here. Okay. These are the basics of a stat block. For these guys, I'm going to copy this so I have it. I based these off of one of these books. Some of the critters in one of these. This is the monster manual. If you can get a copy of this or a PDF, very useful for when you're making custom monsters. I'm going to make as many customized monsters as possible, and we based our rats on some of these guys in here. I think they're actually in the PHP, if I remember. Tiny beasts they've already fought. Some our particular rats were tiny, just a little bit stronger than the rats out of the book, but we use those as inspiration. 25 strength. Yep, that makes sense. Okay. So we wanted our first combat, which was in the cellar. Please go down to the cellar and clear out the rats for me. To be pretty easy, we're teaching Norbert the noob combat for the first time. These are level 1 characters. They've not done anything yet. We just want to give them a taste of combat that is not too hard. So the previous combat that they've had, rats round and round. These overfed rats are larger than normal. There's an extra T there. Band pun. They will defend their bountiful food supply in the cellar with much more vigor than the average vermin. If cornered or challenged, they will hiss, rush forward, and band together in groups to attack. They will also try to surround any invaders to confuse them. There are 3 times as many rats as there are players in the party, because remember, we don't know how many players we have yet. So we're going to base things off of that kind of calculation. Like, if you want them to fight an equal number of people, just send them that many orcs or whatever. Only half of that number will attack first. The rest of the rats stay in the background. After 3 rounds of combat, the rest of the rats decide whether or not to join in based on how deadly it seems to be. And then the DM will have the opportunity to adjust the encounter if it's going badly or going well. These are the stats we came up so far. After they fight those rats, they discover the broken wall, which leads down into the dungeon. Okay. Let's see. Where are we? Alright, the corridor. Alright, we start down the corridor. Okay, so this is them going into the dungeon. You just sitting down a pile of stones into the dark corridor that runs to your left and right. Before you is a large wall comprised of massive bricks with pinkish hue. Pink void. They extend upward into the slate slab ceiling, where tiny roots have found gaps and have spread, seeking water. You can hear through a layer of earth and cobblestones the din of the town guards at the nearby gatehouse, changing shifts. To your right, you can just barely see a door frame in the shadows. Then they go down. They can go to the door. They can do our challenge that we made last time. We've got a small shrine. Okay, Cave in A. This is where we want to focus. Hello, Kedran. Welcome. Thanks, Bod. Section of the walls ahead have collapsed in a daunting pile of pink bricks, broken slabs, and rubble. Half buried in the mess, you can see the corner of an old wooden door with rusty iron hinges. Okay, this is the part we want to go in and check out. So we want to go up to our edit button and scroll down to Cave in A. If you recall, we need to put in our block quotes. Let's get rid of our previous bold. Do block quote slash block quote. That'll make it pop. Okay, here's the instructions we have for the GM so far. The cave-in can be shifted to unblock the door with strength or constitution checks, but trying to open the corridor beyond will begin to weaken the structure on all sides and eventually cause another cave-in. I'm going to change that now since we have a little thing going on. All right, let's see. Let's take this section out. And instead. But as they clear the door, the section beyond opens slightly, revealing the corridor and a highly disturbed rat's nest. The rats stream out of the openings and attack the invaders. Okay. The rats have a brick house. It's a brick rat house. Okay, so there's a couple ways you can do this. You can put more of the rats that we had from before. Here's our little stat block that we created. They also have in the monster book, the monster manual, if you wanted to do a swarm of rats, they do have stats for that. Our rats have an extra T in the name, so I think we need to make our own version of the swarm of rats. The first thing you should know about swarms, in this particular version anyway, the swarms presented here aren't ordinary or benign assemblies of little creatures. They form as a result of some sinister or unwholesome influence, like a vampire summoning stuff. So we don't want to go too crazy with our swarms. We need to give a reason for why these rats are swarming. A couple of rules if you wanted to do a swarm. There's a swarm special thing in the stat block. The swarm can occupy another creature's space and vice versa. The swarm can move through any opening large enough for a tiny rat. The swarm can't regain hit points or gain temporary hit points. And then I believe it's for swarms, it's if you like begin, I think it's what it is. If you're in the space, that's when you get attacked. Yeah, it's a melee weapon attack, +2 to hit, reach 0 feet, 1 target in the swarm space. So they surround a character. They do their +2 to attack, which is a d20 +2. See if they hit the character's armor class. And then in this version, on a hit, they do 2d6 piercing damage, which averages out to 7. Or less if the swarm has been reduced to half its hit points or fewer, where you're swatting them and they die. This particular thing out of the book, it's only a challenge 1/4, but it's a surprise attack. They won't know that it's coming. They have to be rats, right? Can you bribe the rats? With food, I think that would be perfectly acceptable. If you had some food and you throw it out there and they get distracted by the easy-to-eat food rather than the hard-to-eat armored adventurers, I think that would be one way to defeat this particular challenge. I think that's perfectly fine. These particular rats, I think, are too deadly for our level 1 adventurers who are getting surprised with this rat swarm out of the book. So I don't think we should use them. However, I do think we should give them a little bit of a challenge. So instead of the tiny swarm of rats, I think that we should use our stat block that we created before. They've already fought them. We've already trained them how to fight these particular guys. They're going to follow the same kind of pattern. So here's a little stat block. Probably don't need too much more than this, other than maybe their strength and dex and stuff like that. We can add that another time when we need to, but I'm not too worried about it right now. Let's give a basic guideline for the GM for how to run this encounter. We've made these guys pretty weak. They don't have any advantage. They don't have any bonus to hit. They only do a point of piercing damage. It's pretty low level stuff, but they might be fighting 2 fights back to back, depending on what they do. So you just have straight black bangs. We might do a boss rat later on when they're a little better equipped. That would be funny. We can do some puns on their songs too. Let's see. Okay, so I think we keep the same stats, same hit points. Generally speaking, they'll be able to kill them in 1 or 2 hits at level 1. They probably don't have a lot of bonuses. They attack the invaders. At first, there are an equal number of rats to adventurers. But the creatures will retreat en masse if they see that their nest is in serious danger. They flee through tiny cracks in the walls and ceiling near the cave-in. Okay. And then, once again, if you'll remember where the map was, that they're leaving up and out into the town itself. So maybe the people who live in that particular section of town might get a surprise as a bunch of rats come through their floorboards. Got an idea. If they go to a boss battle and they roll 1, checking the boss in there, get Thanos. It's a little much for a level 1 party, I think. Yeah, if you want to just end your game, like Adventure 1, Thanos will do it. Out of the cellar. Oh yeah, that was an album name, right? Yeah. Okay, so we've got more rats. And then so that's our block quote. Got our instructions. Let's do some more block quotes here while we're here, so we don't miss any. I've got another one up here. Postal room. So as we are still in the planning phase, you will want to go back and recheck your notes often, see what little things you can add and take away, formatting stuff that you need to change, stuff like that. So it's all nice and clean, because the idea is that when you're actually running the game, if you haven't run a game before, it's there's a lot of stuff going on. You're managing people and lots of details, and whatever work you've done ahead of time, which we're doing quite a bit for this one, so we can show you how it works. It will make everything else significantly easier. All right, let's see where we are. Make sure it looks right. We got our block quotes. This is the original combat. This is our dungeon. We've got our stuff we read. We've got the stuff that the GM needs to know. In a normal Obsidian portal, page, you would be using your GM secrets. You could if you wanted to. Stuff. I'll show you where that is in case you haven't seen it before. That's down here. So this is your GM only section. If you put stuff in here, anybody who's designated as a GM in your campaign can read it, but players can't. You can make the entire post GM only if you want to hide the whole thing. And then you can add player secrets also. So if I wanted Calac to have a particular piece of knowledge about this place but nobody else does, I could type in, you know, or you recognize religious symbology carved here and there along the walls related to the muses, and then make it so that you can do it and then save it. I'm not going to worry about that because this is all a public campaign and I want you guys to be able to see everything. Okay, so that's our little corridor. Let's go look at our map one more time. Alright, so they've just cleared this area. They cleared some of the bricks. They've exposed the nest beyond. I don't think we should give them any kind of special reward for that because the reward was to clear this area. But we do need to note that they are blocked by another iron pipe on this side, so they can't go forward anymore. And then we'll write what's in this room here, which is it's going to be a workshop, and that's where they're going to get their first clue about what this place is really for. Player secrets can also be for more than one player. Yes, if I had more than one player, I could select multiple players and give them all different kinds of access to that particular secret on that particular page. Oh yeah, we're editing. We'll go up to our edit and scroll down. Alright, so we need to mention after the camera can be switched to unlock the doors. And the highly disturbed rat's nest. Examine the openings. The nest itself is full of rat droppings, filth, and little scraps of stolen bits and pieces from the town above, but nothing of value. The corridor dead ends against a large pipe. Okay, there's nothing on that pipe, so we don't need to do any of that. I may put stat blocks in some kind of a box eventually also, once I learn how to do that. Need to go back and watch Calac's stream again to find out how to do the border box. And, but we'll make those pop out a little bit more too. Alright, we have, okay, that was door C, I believe, was where we were. Let me reference my map one more time. Yep. A, B, door C is the one they just cleared. Okay, so door C is cleared. What do they find beyond it? Okay. So this is another one where we want to do our block quotes / block quote. So whatever we type in here will be in our little shadow box. Tables are a great way to make quick stat blocks. That's a good point. We can do tables in textile, I believe. Numeric lists, bulletin lists, embedded images, acronyms. I think here it is. Tables. Okay, so the format for tables, you're using the solid vertical lines to make tables, and then they will be blocked out thusly. And then if you want to jazz them up, you can do a little CSS and make them interesting. Table attributes, looks like you can do here. So that's kind of cool. I'll play around with that at some point. But let me just have that right there. Okay, so that's a cool way to do that one. We'll put those in a little bit. Let's work on this while I've got it fresh in my head. So the room itself is kind of rectangular, and then it sort of pitches off into a narrow corridor. So let's describe what the room looks like and how it has not been disturbed in quite some time. That's important. Remember, you're trying to pack every sentence with as much detail to give information to your explorers, especially Ezra the Explorer, who's going to eat it up. So, beyond the blocked door, the air is still and dry. Lacework, cobwebs fill the archway leading into a rectangular chamber that narrows funnel-like at the far end and continues as a narrow corridor. Okay, now imagine as their eyes pass over stuff, what they look for first as adventurers, and try and describe it that way. That's the best logical way to do that, I think, if you're not used to writing much. So I have my adventurer go in. Let's say that Paulie the Power Gamer goes in first, looks around, ready for danger, starts scanning the room. What do they see first? Shadowy shapes in the darkness come into focus. Oops, sorry, my light diffuser fell down. It's a piece of paper because I don't have all the cool fancy equipment. Shadowy shapes in the darkness come into focus. We'll do a dash and tell them what they see. Brick steps leading up to a sealed opening above, comma, two work benches cluttered with old tools and a blanket of cobwebs and dust, and stacks of iron some of these are rusted. And half collapsed in piles of debris. Others seem to have been treated and preserved somehow and remain in decent condition. They have been cut with great precision, and a few of them have square holes in carefully arranged patterns. So it's a giant pipe organ. We don't want to tell them it's a giant pipe organ. That's cheap. You want to show them stuff and let them investigate their way into giant pipe organ. So we're giving them the clues to do that by not telling them what stuff is explicitly, but just describing it and letting them piece together things on their own. What you'll find is when your players start talking out loud about what is this thing, let's hash out some ideas. Then you've got them. You've hooked them. You're good. You're in the mystery. This is the room. If they go to this room before they go to the shrine from before, this will hopefully hook them if the other room is not. What are these pipes? What are they for? Why did they get left behind? Why is stuff sealed off? Also on our map, in this room there is another door that has been sealed off. In this one we want to make sure that they can't get beyond this particular seal. I don't want them to go that way. I want them to go another direction. So a doorway across from you has also been sealed completely. Let's do some magic. If you're unfamiliar with your spells from Dungeons and Dragons, we're looking for Stonewall. Why Stonewall? I'll explain. Or Wall of Stone, sorry. So Wall of Stone is a 5th level evocation. I think druids and wizards get it in this game. So you get to be fairly high level caster to cast Wall of Stone, and it can be made permanent. That's why I want it, because this has been down here a couple hundred years. So we need some kind of permanent thing that indicates that there were magic users down here and that they sealed it up for a reason. They don't know the reason yet, but something was sealed for a reason. That's why I'm doing this one. So powerful spellcaster, willing to use a high level spell, well, moderately high level spell, to seal something off. What's beyond it, it will make them want to come back. They also can't necessarily get through it right away until they get some tools. We're not going to let them get the tools that they need until they have moved along in the adventure a little bit. All right, Wall of Stone. This is in page 287 of your player's handbook, or you can look it up online. A non-magical wall of solid stone springs into existence at a point you choose within range. It has some dimensions. The wall can have any shape you desire, though it can't occupy the same space as a creature or object. So it's just taking up it's blocking this area. It doesn't need to be vertical or rest in a firm foundation. It must, however, merge with and be solidly supported by existing stone. So we've got our stone archway brickwork stuff around it. That's what that's going on. It can be damaged and thus breached, so there are stats for how to breach it. I think we should put that as a mention, because some of your persistent players will maybe try to break through, but we can do that. Okay, so that's our quote. Now we've got our GM notes in parentheses for now until we come up with a cooler way to style those. And we're gonna have all right, so the panel, and according to the rules, the panel has an AC, it's an armor class, 15 and 30 hit points per inch of thickness. Reducing a panel to 0 hit points destroys it and might cause connected panels to collapse at the team's discretion. And then it also has the note about making it permanent. If you maintain your concentration on the spell for its whole duration, which was 10 minutes, I believe, the wall becomes permanent and can't be dispelled. So AC 15, 30 hit points per inch of thickness, and then we've got one spell I believe gives you a maximum of 6 inches of thickness. So in theory we could do, or you can do alternate dimensions if you want to. So that's like 180 hit points. That's a lot. So that's pretty good. Level 1 people are probably not going to spend that much time doing that. But they certainly could. So for the GM, this was a. Oh wait, you gotta give it. Yeah, let's rate this first while we're thinking about it. This was a Wall of Stone spell cast when the underground temple was being sealed off from potential invaders. It has an AC of 15 and 180 hit points. If the players attempt to breach it before you are ready, simply say they make very little progress. Or as your GM can come up with some other excuse for why they can't get through it right now. Okay, what else is in this room that we need to describe? We have the stairs that lead up to a sealed opening. The stairs used to lead up, and I'll show you on our overlay. Let me switch over to that. Hang on. Here's our overlay. The stairs that we're talking about are right here. Let me center it here. So they're going to lead to somewhere over in this section of town. We haven't defined what's over here yet. We don't know. They could, in theory, lead to this little courtyard in between buildings. They could lead into one of these buildings. So I'm thinking maybe this leads up to somebody's floorboards, and they can get into somebody's business, perhaps, or home, or something like that if they broke through eventually. So that's what that's all about. Let's go back to our written stuff. Okay, the stairs used to lead up to. Let's leave it blank for now. So I'm going to just put filler X's in for now. We'll come back and fill that in later once we decide what that's going to be. Stairs used to lead up to X, but have been blocked off at the ceiling with We'll go in the order that we describe things. So this is a workshop, so let me put in let's just change this to workshop. Workshop. And door C. Okay. Granite. Next, we describe the workbenches. So let's talk about what's on there for the GM. We need to refer. We're going to give them some equipment at this point. So let's go to our equipment section of our players, which is kind of in the middle. Alright, the tools section, if you're looking for tools, is on page 154 of the Player's Handbook. You can go down here if you want to give them something that would be useful to people making a giant pipe organ, which is most likely, let's see, they got smith's tools, tinker's tools, what else? Artisans. Don't think they need wood carver's tools. But we do want to mention the tools that they do get. So, put this down here. Okay. The old workbenches contain the remains of a pipe cutting operation that was abandoned. There are enough implements between the two tables to form full sets, like to form one full set of let's do tinker's tools, one set of, I don't really want to give them smith's tools quite yet. Let's do half of the components for a full set of smith's tools. That way, if they want to go to the shops and spend the other half of the money, they can get the other half. And stray here. Let's read about artisan's tools real quick. Yeah, these are all the artisan's tools. They just laid them out. Maybe jewelers? Maybe. Because they're doing kind of some fine work. Yeah, I think maybe some jeweler's tools too. Let's put the smith's tools last. And remove the 2 tables from one full set of tinker's tools, one full set of jeweler's tools, and half of the components for a full set of smith's tools. Um, there are several sheets of, I think it's paper in this version. Let's switch to paper. Let me double check. Yeah. Paper's more expensive in this one, so we'll do a little bit of paper. There are, let's see how many there are. There are 4 sheets of paper with different measurements, as well as let's do different diameter measurements. Diameter measurements scribbled upon them, and a few nubs of charcoal pencil. Okay, that's what's on the workbenches. Let's describe the iron pipes. The iron pipes could have value as scrap metal, but are could have value as scrap metal, but many are rusted through. Okay. The sealed doorway was a wall of stone spell. Okay, and that's the rest of what we already wrote. Okay. So far, so good. Let's save it and make sure that it looks the way we're wanting it to look. And scroll down. Cave-in, here we go. Alright, so there's our cave-in, our instructions for the rats. The workshop. Do need to make these pop out a little bit more so we can see our titles easily. That looks about right to me. And put quotes around it. We need to put quotes around it after workshop. And then there's our instructions. We need to describe the exhaust port farmhouse, the corridor beyond, and so forth. Okay. So far, so good. Scroll down. Let's put our quotes while I'm thinking about it. I want to make our, let's go up to, yeah, our different titles and things. Yeah, I kind of want to make these guys pop out a little bit more, which I think you can do with up here. These are headers, I think they're called headings, sorry. Let's try an H2. This is where the preview button comes in handy. Yep, I messed that up, of course. Maybe we have to do paragraph. Probably not. No, I'm just putting things in. What happens if you just save it? Let me see what that changes. I'm of the school of push the button until it works the way you want it to. Probably missing a something else. It's just H2. No. Let's check our textile reference. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. That's what it is. I need these little bracket thingies. Oh, that's for an entire paragraph. Okay, so if you want your whole paragraph, you just use the one little thing. But I'm doing too many things, so I need to do it inside of our little brackets. That's where I went wrong. Okay, make sure you got this right. Let's do bracket. Let's try H2 bracket, and then get rid of the H2. Yeah, now it's big, like I wanted it. That's pretty good. I also want it to be bold, so I'm going to surround it with asterisks. How does that look? Oh yeah, thanks to the mod. Heading tags require a line break in between the content. That's why I had it too squished. Neither is something. Yeah, so I would need a break in between there to do just the heading things. Let's try that. Make sure we've got it. Let's go down to another section. Okay, so I want this one to be heading 2, and I want it to be bold, and then line break after this. Let's see if that did it right. Combat, round and round. Yep, now it works. Figured it out. Just needed a line break. Okay. So we're going to copy that format for all of our headings. So H2, broken wall, that. Make this one. Make this one an H1. Make it slightly bigger. If I remember correctly, you can do underlining also. I think it's the underscore. It might be italics. Let's try it right now. Got the reference page. I should be using that reference page. Yeah, italics is the underscore. Here's underline. Pluses. That's what it was. Pluses. We'll get there eventually. Once you do this for a while, you'll memorize it. I just haven't done it in quite a long time. I think the last campaign that I wrote was over a year ago now, because I've been fortunate to be a player for quite some time. Okay. So it's a big section. Now I want my H2s and bold. H2, bold. You get the idea. But remember, the work that you're doing now saves you later on when you're getting ready to run and you're frantically looking for a spot where the description is when your players go to a different section. Page 2. Workshop. And that's where we are. Okay. Exhaustport Farmhouse. I want to do this, but I want to put it somewhere else. Because the odds are that if they break into the pipe from last week, they may investigate that first. So pipe A interior. Page 2. All right. Exhaustport Farmhouse. This is if they go out of the pipe all the way to its end. It's going to end underneath some Porchmo's farmhouse next to a field of Holland oats. All right, so let's describe what they see there. A quote. The pipe dead ends and turns upward, revealing an iron, a heavy iron grate, above which is wooden planking. Okay, and then I'll give them the GM's notes, which is the small farmhouse. The family that lives in this small farmhouse has no idea that there is a secret passage just beneath their floorboards. In fact, a woven rug and a bed now rests atop the place. The opening. If the adventurers break through the floor during the day, the family will be out working the Holland oats fields. If they break through at night, the family will flee, fearing monsters. Okay, so that covers that. We don't have to make up new NPCs. We can just say that they run for it. If the GM has to make up an NPC, they can do it on the fly. It's not quite important enough for that. But this gives as we discussed in previous episodes, the party away in and out of town secretly, relatively secretly, except for this poor family who's been sleeping on top of their secret exit. Okay, so that's their way out. And then we'll let the GM decide what else is in the farmhouse itself. We will put a note, though, I think. Farmhouse itself is a simple dwelling that contains what you would expect. In a modest home. So we'll leave a little bit of the work for the GM. We don't have to detail every little nook and cranny unless you're into that. It's just the adventurers beneath your bed. So true. Okay, that's that. Looking at our map one more time, the only things we have left that I can see are the narrow passage, and then that's going to lead to a cistern. So we'll do that. Let's see how far we get. All right, so I don't think we already labeled one corridor, if I remember right. Corridor A, so this will be corridor B. H2. Corridor B. All right. This narrow brick hall slopes slightly downward, and it terminates against an iron pipe covered in, how did I describe it before? I want to make sure these are the same, because if they're not paying attention to the map, they'll have to do it through the description. Pipe exterior. Cylindrical barrier. Yeah, I didn't even call it a pipe. I called it a cylindrical barrier made out of fired clay. That's what I called it. Alright, let's just copy this thing. So if you want them to figure out that these two things are the same, you give them the same description and let them puzzle it out themselves. Okay, terminates against a large horizontal cylinder wrapped in fired clay. This one does not have an access port. But we do want to give them a small apparatus consisting of glass bulbs, brass fittings, and a pointer gauge. is secured into the side of it. Alright, so there's no way into this one. You don't need to be able to get in and out of the pipe from this direction. There is a doorway to the cistern here, though. To your right, a large piece of slate, gray slate, has been wedged into an opening in the brickwork. Someone has cut out, has chipped out holes for hand holds. So that indicates to them they can remove it with their hands. And then we need some auditory cues for what they're going to find beyond it. Again, you're trying to give them as much information, pack as much information in as you can. Beyond it, you hear the echoing of water droplets. That's good. All right, so beyond this is going to be a cistern. H2, bold, cistern. I'm doing colons here. I'm trying to follow the same formatting procedures for the whole thing, so it at least looks pretty close. All right, the cistern. Is another sort of trapezoid room. This one's going to go deep, and it's going to go under the pipe that we previously mentioned. So hopefully, if they're not making a map or looking at a map, this is where they make the connection of the two pipes that they've discovered so far are connected, and they go in a particular direction towards the center of the town and the dungeon. But they can't get there yet, because it gets narrow. The cistern itself is the source of our clear water. Let me show you on our overlay map. 1 second. Paint.net. All right, here's our overlay map. This is the narrow corridor we just described. Here's the little slate plug right here. I'll zoom in. And then this is the cistern. You'll notice that the cistern itself, this is running underneath of the courtyard behind the Heartbreak Inn. In the description of the courtyard, we said that there was a marble fountain kind of in the middle of it that is flowing with clear water. So the marble fountain is going to be drawing from the cistern. The cistern gets its water from the various gutters and downspouts of the town itself. That's where we're designing. We're thinking about architecture and engineering. Where is this stuff coming from? Where is it going? I want the water from here, as it gets high enough, to be spilling out into these water channels, these little aqueduct things, which will be underneath the rest of the dungeon. That's we're going to describe in future episodes. One of these waterways will lead to the Temple Keep, which will give them access to that. And one of the waterways will lead underneath the Mayor's Mansion, where we're having another section of this adventure, which will give them a way in and out of there if they need to perhaps sneak someone out, which is going to be one of the things I want them to do, or have an option to do. So that's that. Let's describe our cistern and make our entry for that. Okay. So the cistern. Let's do our you're doing a bunch of these block quotes in a row, and you know where they're going to be on a page, you can just write this once, and then copy and paste it where you need it to, and you'll save yourself some time that way. I think there's a shorthand for the block quote also. It's like a BQ or something, but I'm just writing it out because it works. So let's do it that way. I think it's this little guy up here is our, that's how you do normal quotes. And normally it doesn't look the way I have it. If you missed that first part, we've done some custom CSS to make it look different. All right. Here's our cistern. All right. This oblong chamber drops away into a deep pool surrounded by stone and brick. Clear water sits below and is fed with trickles from tiny pipes along the walls and ceilings. Let's see. A marble slab above you is drilled through with a crusty iron pipe, if I can spell, that descends into the water below. Let's see. The fired clay cylinder that you have already seen cuts through this room as well and continues over the cistern and into the opposite wall. I guess through the opposite wall would be better. You can just barely make out a circular opening at the far end of the cistern, through which some of the water is flowing. Alright, so that's our description. I think we need to address the fact that if they jump in here, they might get hurt. So let's set up a little test of skill. The cistern is, let's say, 20 feet deep. It's 20 feet deep with, let's call it 5 feet of water at the bottom. I think there's probably rules somewhere in our source books for how to calculate falls. I know every 10 feet that you fall does a certain amount of damage. But we're customizing this for very low level adventurers, so we're going to make sure we don't accidentally kill them with the official rules. So let's just tell what they're going to do here. Okay, cistern is 20 feet deep, 5 feet of water at the bottom. If anyone jumps in without taking, let's just say, if anyone takes any sort of precautionary measures to descend while descending, they can enter the water unharmed. If they simply jump, they take, let's just do 1 point of damage. Remember, they've had 2 combats before this, so they might already be hurt. We don't want to auto kill anybody. 1 point of damage, I think, is sufficient. 1 point of damage. Due to the shallow water. Okay. So that's that. We want to mention that the opening on the other side leads to an aqueduct that they're going to have to crawl through. I want to make it fairly difficult to get through this section. They're not going to be doing a lot of fighting or running or anything like that. It's going to be a hard slog if they want to continue on. The round opening at the far end is large enough for a medium-sized creature to crawl through, but not high enough to stand. Okay. Let's save it. I haven't saved in a while. It's good practice to save, just in case your internet decides to bail out on you. Alright, I've done my H2 wrong here. But I'll fix that in a minute. I probably missed a space. Oh, I also need to reset it for some of these, yep. If you don't do your spaces in your things correctly, you will accidentally give traits to things you don't want to give traits to. But anyway, I'll go back and fix that in a minute. Online chamber, yada yada yada. Cistern, okay. Alright, we have our notes at the very bottom. Okay, good start so far. Let's go back to our map and we'll see if we can write something that will be appropriate for the whole of the next complex. Okay, so here's what I've gotten to. This is the hole if they choose to go in. This is the narrow area, and then it gives them access to the rest of our dungeon. I've already blocked off the sections I don't want them to go down right away. I want them to be able to see through them, so I'm thinking iron bars of some kind that they're going to have to figure out a way to open. Just trying to think of a way to do bars and music. Let's see if we can come up with a pun for that. Yeah, if anybody has any suggestions for funny things, feel free to insert them into the chat at any point. We are getting a little low on time, so I will, let's do this description and then we will try and wrap things up. So we've got our long corridor, branches off to, from their perspective, their right and their left twice. We'll cut under these a couple of times. Okay. All right, let's finish up our dungeon description. And then we'll be able to proceed onward next time to the rest of the adventure. We can also talk about our prop that we started last time. We'll be able to finish that once we figure out what that prop is going to have on it, how it's going to connect to the other props that we can make. Okay. Oh yeah, here, because I didn't put space there, it started giving traits to things I didn't want to have the particular trait. Let's go find the other one. Here's that one. And I have one more. Let's get, I'll find it later. Anyway, let's do our waterways. I'm just going to do one description for all the waterways, and then that'll save a little time and space. Waterways. There's our block quote. All right. These round passages open slightly so that two may move side by side, but still in a crouch. Water flows in shallow runs past, let's get past clumps of stinking debris. And through tiny drains. Openings above. Let's say small ones. Small openings above send drips and echoes throughout the long aqueduct. Is that not how you spell aqueduct? No, aqueduct. My bad. Which runs straight and slightly downhill. Let's see, we're moving, look at my paper map, we're moving south, a little bit south, but mostly west, which runs slightly downhill to the west, which would also be toward the sea. There's a simpler way to say this. Let's say downhill, westward, and seaward. Let's see here. So, aqueduct, straight side downhill, westward, and seaward. Go for the 2. Okay. Here and there. Insects skitter. How do you spell skitter? Skitter away into the darkness. And the din of city life can be heard as though coming from a great distance beyond a mass of earth, which it is. At this point, they're technically like at least 2 stories ish under the town. Let's see here. Heavy dreams. Insect skitter. And mass of earth. Okay. The waterway branches once to the left, or sorry, to the right from their perspective. Right. Then later to the left. Both of these branches are blocked by heavy steel bars that seem to have been set into the brickwork and stone. Okay, so there's no way to open them currently unless they happen to have brought a hacksaw or have some sort of item that can breach these. At low levels, this is highly unlikely, so they'll probably have to back out and go fetch something to open these, which we want them to do later, just not right now. So this is a temporary delay. We want to tell them there's stuff beyond this. Beyond each, you can view more of the waterway until it vanishes into darkness. At the towards the end of the long section, the aqueduct descends until water that smells of salt descends until submerged in water that smells of salt. Okay. You can hear the pulse of waves somewhere past it. All right. So that's what they know so far. Let's do our DM notes. Let's see. The iron, if I can spell, iron bars can be reached with appropriate tools, acid, or spells, but strength alone is not enough. The waterway eventually leads to the bay, but decades of debris has blocked off the passage so that only salt water, so that only liquids might move through. All right, so they can't go out to the bay yet. Maybe they can come up with a way to do that later on. But for our purposes right now, we have cornered them where we want them to be. And they now know that there's other stuff that they can do. So let's put a special note. Go away, Windows. Let's put a special note up at the top for this particular dungeon. Hidden Temple of the Muses. Okay, I want a special note right in here for the DM. Note. This dungeon often floods during heavy rains. If the adventurers are ever going somewhere you don't want them to go, indicate rains and rising water to dissuade them. After a couple levels, that won't matter anymore. They'll just cast spells so they can breathe underwater. It's a temporary fix for low level, but should be good for level 1. All right, let's see what we've got. Save. That's our first dungeon. And lead up to it. So we've got them to the dungeon. We've got them through the section of dungeon we want them to go through. We've got 2 small combats. We've got a little puzzle and a trap. We've got a couple of skill challenges to get through. We've given them a mystery. We've given them an item. That's pretty good for now. So that's generally what we're going for. Let's look at the rest of the map so we can plan for future streams. What else is up down here? So the rest of our dungeon later on. So far we've given them this little section for this first adventure. Later on they'll have access to different chunks of it. Eventually we want them to get to the center part where our magical organ is going to be, and either activate it or destroy it depending on how that particular part goes. They need to obtain some items from some of the bosses that are in this area in the Temple Keep. We've given them a way in and out, perhaps, once they unblock this section. So this is a progressive dungeon. You go in, you come out, you go back in with extra stuff, you open something, you proceed further, and so on and so forth. Eventually we'll give them access to other parts of the town, other ways in and out, a way to get underwater if they need to. And then that will be our first. This dungeon will serve us for levels about 1 to 5, is my guess. We'll see how it goes as we proceed onward. They fought a handful of rats so far. They've probably not had quite enough experience to level up. By the time they do this section, they will be on their way. Maybe a third of the way to leveling, if I'm guessing correctly. Although we'll go back in and do our math and make sure that that's all correct next time when we talk about getting them to the next section. All right, let's go back to our overview of our adventure. So we've got the beginning. They see a few of the sights. We hook them with criminals being branded by the clergy and losing their magic. We've got the discovery of the buried ruins over the ancient walls, the Temple of the Muses. Next time, we're going to be working on getting them to the third part of the adventure, White Wedding. So far, we've come up with an unwilling bride-to-be needs the band's help. We need to get them into high society and get them into the musical component of our first adventure, which is it's time to perform. Maybe you can get in that way. Maybe you're in competition with somebody else, then you have to sneak in a different way. If they've already booked a band, something along those lines. So we'll get into that part. This will be the role-playing section, heavy role-play, and it will be to make sure that Alice the actor has something to do. And Eddie the escapist, they will hopefully eat up the roleplay section. Ezra the Explorer, we've already catered to somewhat and given them a mystery to solve. We've given a little bit of combat to Polly the Power Gamer, but we need to give them some more significant challenges now that we've trained. We've been training because of Norbert the Noob. Hopefully they know how basic skill checks work at this point. And we still need to give an option for Wanda the World Builder to participate somehow in what's going on in the town. And I think hopefully the band section will help with that if we give her the means to come up with the set list, perhaps, or what the show is about. So we catered to our characters so far. We're going to do more next time. That's pretty much it for this particular episode. We'll be moving on with our adventure. Next time I will do a little more learning on my custom styling, and we will try and get a few more of those lessons in. Don't forget to check out Kalak's stream, Kalak Hacks, on Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. It's GMT -4. My stream will be on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, except for probably Thanksgiving and depending on when other holidays happen. When's Christmas this year? I don't even know. Yeah, we're good on Christmas, I think. Nope. Christmas is a Wednesday, so yeah, day after Christmas. We'll see how that goes. We'll try and post schedule changes as necessary. Keep an eye out on Obsidian Portal's social media for any kind of cool stuff that we have going on. Let me throw up the web address one more time. want to check out the site itself, liveforyourdabar.obsidianportal.com. If you want to check out this site, go up to the top tab and go to all campaigns and dig around some other people's campaigns and check their stuff out too. Visit our blog and our forums if you want some cool information and inspiration and want to talk to some other people. And keep an eye out for some cool new stuff in the near future. We've been working on a lot of things behind the scenes. Can't give it away yet. But that's it for now. Thanks for joining us in the chat. See you next time. Thanks for your help. And that's pretty much it. Happy gaming. Bye.